In 2012 and 2013, a number of schools in Melbourne's north participated in a storytelling and multimedia project on the theme "Don't Let Gambling Take Over." Some of the work produced is showcased in this film. The project is a reminder that young people are observant and insightful. Their voices are powerful. This film is about having conversations with young people, acknowledging their strengths and vulnerabilities in negotiating our contemporary gambling culture. Young people speak out. Well, I see gambling everywhere, on TVs, in newspapers, in sports bets when I go to the football. Even football itself is gambling. My family has footy tips, so in a sense that's also gambling. But even then, friends and family will always make small bets about something.
Around the Glen Cannon Gold, the leader, a length and a half in front of Lights of Heaven running second.
Feature of the Saturday's Lotto draw. Total prize book for tonight is over $43.4 million.
You can find all the information you need on the Melbourne Cup.
Buddy held up. Hanbury's been magnificent.
It's an opportunity that they took last year when you had your contract negotiations put off.
Look at Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs. Well, Adelaide $1.14.
Controversial new game allows Facebook users to gamble online using real money.
Picture your children spending hours playing the pokies. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? A new mobile gambling game could make that a reality. It's called Slotomania, and it's become one of Australia's biggest selling iPhone and Facebook apps, even among children.
Gambling is you're taking chances, and you don't always win. You gotta lose to win. You know? So they get into trouble because they gamble more than they can pay.
I don't know too much about gambling, but I know it's not like the best life way to go about life. Like, it's not the best thing to do in life. It's like wasting money and stuff, and it doesn't have great percentage of winning. It's not a good thing to do.
Well, what I know about it, it's just like a whole bunch of people come together to play a game. Well, it takes money and stuff from them, and they sometimes have a good time, but it's also losing like what they work really hard for.
I don't know too much. All I know is that people go to casinos and stuff, and they kind of gamble and lose a lot of money. Yeah, that's kind of it. I know there's big industries like Crown.
I've watched it on TV. I know you lose a lot of money, have a lot of problems with family.
That it's bad for you and you lose money pretty quickly. But I've done it a few times with friends, but it affected me so much in a way because I've lost so much money.
Yeah, it's addictive and you lose money for no reason.
I think of gambling as a luxury.
I think of gambling as pretty stupid, waste of time.
I think of gambling as kind of harmless, just something fun to do.
I don't think about gambling that much. I don't know much about it.
I think gambling is just something to do.
My kids, when we've talked about gambling, it hasn't been something that they're actively involved in at the moment, but we have talked about it in terms of the sort of money that people might invest in it, and we have lots of conversations in our family about you don't get something for nothing. So we often have the conversation. For example, in gambling, people might get a win, but they also, the business side of it, I guess. That's if you're not losing, then somebody's likely to be losing.
Our youngest child does participate in betting, online betting. Mostly around football games. But I think there was a stage, I think in clubs you can bet on races that aren't really happening, like some sort of virtual betting game, and I think he was doing that for a little while as well. But I am aware more recently of him betting on football activities.
I do think it's everywhere, with small bets between your friends and family to larger ones with football and...
Like Sportsbet, it switches all over the ad on the television.
About like Tom Waterhouse and all, about the horse racing and footy and all.
You can't sit and watch a game of sport, any sport, without gambling being advertised or being part of the call or on the screen itself, and it's blended. There's no differentiation between an ad and the commentary itself. So yeah, we've had to have conversations and let them know that it's that we don't need to gamble on sport, that we can just watch the sport and participate in sport and love it. But it's really difficult to be having those conversations as constantly as the ads appear.
With gambling, I know my brother does it. He's a winner of it, doesn't lose too much, but it's just small bets of sports bets. The horses, the dogs, or the AFL. Normally with the AFL, whichever team wins or wins over this amount of points, he would win the big bucks. But I'll tell him, it's not always you're going to be winning. You're going to come down with a knock on the head, tell you stop gambling.
I think it's just too easy with these smartphones. He doesn't actually have to go out, he doesn't have to queue up, he doesn't have to find a car park. He just can sit in the comfort on the couch and organise it all, as far as I know. I've never actually seen him do it, but that's how I understand he does it, so there's no inconvenience whatsoever.
I do see a lot of gambling advertising on my phone, sometimes when I'm playing a game.
So there's a number of sites, particularly, my younger girl is on, Animal Farm, Moshi Monsters, some of these sorts of things. And embedded in those, you win points. And when you win points, you can buy things. So there's this sort of reward system. But some of the games within that context they remind me of pokies a little bit, and just the behaviour around engaging in it and the difficulty of stopping yourself. So in the context of that, I've talked about the relationship between establishing behaviours that are habitual, or you sort of can't stop yourself in, and have at times mentioned that it's a bit like, sometimes for people gambling gets really hard, and it starts to take over more of their time and their life. So that's the context with my girls.
I don't think they should be advertising gambling advertisements on TV, because it affects people in a way, and if there's people in need of money, they might be taking actions towards it.
On TV there's a lot of advertisements like buy a ticket and stuff, and like 20 million and stuff, and you can win, to get people to come buy tickets and so they can make money and fool people that they're going to win when really they're not actually going to win.
It's good in some way to make money, but then in other way you're losing money as well, and you're just guessing. You're not sure who's gonna win and stuff.
I think gambling advertising should be allowed. I think though more people, with the generation coming up, I think they should be educated on what gambling is. I think that would really help.
If a friend of mine had a gambling problem, I'll know about it, because he would asking for money or stealing money and all.
I wouldn't really ask my friend if they gamble or have they been gambled or have they ever gambled, but yeah, I wouldn't really know, and I'm not sure if I would ask them about it, because it wouldn't come up in the type of conversation you talk about every day.
If a close mate had a gambling problem, I'd probably tell them to stop. Like, you just need the money to save in life for further on, like, accomplishments you need, and like the things are really important instead of like just losing and winning a few dollars.
Just try your hardest to quit. Just think about the people you love. What you're gonna lose if you do not give up gambling.
I reckon you would know. You'd be able to know the signs if you know your kids as well as you think you do. And I've got a lot of kids and the rest of the neighbourhood as well. You could always tell when something's up. I watch for body language and the word language, and you just know your kids and you know your own family. You know your dads and uncles and aunties and that, and you just know when they're distant or they're miles away thinking and cracking the shits because, you know, on the spur of the moment. Yeah.
The parents usually notice some changes in the children's mood. Usually they notice that their child would withdraw and would not want to do any activities around the house or outside the house. And some parents comment that they could see some evidence at home that the child has been placing bets on the horse racing or sports betting, so they can see the evidence. But when they confront the child, usually the child denies that there is a problem. But on the other hand, the child might have a problem with paying for the living expenses because of the gambling problem. And the child might ask the parents for some money, so that could be another sign that the parents will know that the child have financial difficulties. And I am talking here for children, but most of them have a small part-time job, so they have some money to pay for their living expenses, but they are struggling.
I don't know, but you might have, first time you start doing it, you win and then you'll get addicted to it. So you keep on going till you realize you've lost everything and you can't stop. That's pretty much it. You can't stop till you're out of everything.
A year ago, I lost my father to suicide after we'd lost everything due to gambling. My father wasn't any different from any other person. He spent his time with his friends and family, but gambling took him from us. He was a good man and a great father. I miss him every day. You may not be a gambler yourself, but if you know anyone with an addiction, you'll understand my pain. I just wish I had the chance to help my dad, or at least say goodbye. Don't let gambling take over.
My mother was suffering because of him, but he didn't care. Fights began to occur between my parents, and even between my friends and me. We would argue over minor things, and the minor things that eventually led us to become distant. Slowly, I had no friends. Why? Because of my father's gambling addiction. My parents' married life slowly began to deteriorate. Day by day, the deterioration increased, till one day the unthinkable happened. My mother left. She left without even saying goodbye to me. She just left me. My father used to be the opposite though. He was loving and caring. We would do father-daughter activities practically every day, have family outings together. We would even play pranks on my mum together. We were practically like magnets. We would never let each other go. But I think ever since gambling took hold of him, that loving and caring nature just left him. Memories are all I have right now that keep me going. My mother nurturing me, my father playing sport with me, my old perfect life. But now I can only make new memories in this cold, grey, homeless shelter. That's right, I left my father. There was nothing I could do. I knew if I continued on living with him, I would have eventually become unsuccessful in life. Right now, this shelter is the place where I'll spend some of my future, a future that definitely will not contain gambling.
The worst thing about being addicted to gambling would be losing time. Like, I could be doing better things.
The worst thing about being addicted to gambling would be the money, financial hardships and stuff.
The worst thing about being addicted to gambling would be lying to the people close to you, or in mental and social health, betraying others.
I think the worst thing about gambling would be that you have to spend money on it.
I don't see why anyone would be addicted to gambling. Can't you just not do it?
It wasn't a conversation I wanted to have with the kids, but I had to. I used to be a gambler myself, and I spent a lot of money thinking I'm going to win something at the pokies, until it got to the stage where I was going to lose my family because my addiction was just too bad. So the conversation with them was more like they brought it up with me and give me the option, Mum, either give it up or we're going to live with Dad. So Mum went to Gamblers Anonymous, didn't find it any helpful because you've got to actually get there. So I didn't find that very helpful for me. So I just told them that they were worth more than what putting a coin in a machine was, and just gave it up. It was hard.
I learned that gambling is a really very dangerous thing. And not only I should stop myself and convince myself that gambling is something very bad in every culture. There are many people who suffered to gamble and lost their properties, they lost their money, and they lost even their education. So all these give prior information and signal to those people who experienced. Now this is for you signaling, don't do that. Otherwise you will face the same situation as they had.
I remember a conversation or a sort of set of events around, if you're going to be part of it, then if you want to gamble and you're using my money to gamble, no, you don't get the winnings. I get the winnings. If you want to gamble and use some of your pocket money, then you would get the winnings. And I was surprised at how adverse they were to gambling with their money because they didn't see the value in that.
With my kids' generation, it's more now that the government's saying, or they're putting up these signs saying, don't do it, you know, if you think you've got a problem. They didn't have that around when gambling first came out. So the ones that were back in the old days, they got enticed as much as they could, but they never got told the downfalls and what they could lose, whereas now the kids learn a lot more.
I think the only kind of gambling, if you are going to gamble, is if you're at a fete, put a 50 cents in for a raffle. If you lose, well, you're only going to lose 50 cents. Don't go put hundreds of dollars in just to win, what, $500 at the ding, ding, ding pokies, because it's just not worth it.
I think it's like all that stuff. The more you talk about it, the more you demystify it, the less, my gut tells me, the less likely it is that the kids will find their way into wanting to sort of explore it more. And I think that can be said for a lot of things. Yeah.
When children witness their parents gambling, are more likely to adopt gambling behavior. And it's important for the parents to talk openly with their children about the risks of gambling at early stage. I would recommend in primary school, so the children will be prepared when they go in high school, will be prepared and will have a choice to choose what they want to do about their gambling and how to control it if they choose to do it.
My advice in terms of gambling to adults is that you should not do it. You should not take a risk on something that is pointless and a waste of time, where you could be spending your money on something that you need and going to use in the future, whereas you're wasting your money on something that you're rarely going to win and have a low percentage of doing something with it in the future.
If I would give advice to an adult, I'd just be like, look at your family, like your child and stuff. Like you need to like buy them like the toys and all this, and like, save your money for later on, and because they're probably gonna need more stuff when they grow up by time. And the money you wasted on gambling is not gonna get you anywhere. But yeah, you can just save your money for your children and stuff later on in life. They need it.
My advice would be to think about your family, think about your children. If you got a gambling problem, think about who the gambling problem is gonna affect. And also, of course, it will cause our parents to fight, and you lose money. You might lose your home as well, and also the people you love around you.
Instead of gambling, you can socialize with friends, go out to parties, I guess, spend more time with your family. Get a hobby, get interested in something other than gambling that you really enjoy.